The Moment of Truth, Anon Discloses Secret Space Program by David Wilcock. Part 1, The Secret Space Program. On Wednesday, September 19th, 2018, the mysterious QAnon revealed that we are not alone in the universe, and that we do indeed have a secret space program. This is arguably the single most exciting development we've had in the entire time we've been doing this research, which has been full-time since February 1993. QAnon is the only officially sanctioned voice of the Alliance today, a high-level group diligently working to create mass arrests of the Cabal and disclosure. Q has since gone silent for 17 days as of October 9th, 2018, suggesting that something big is in the works. A letter was posted that day apologizing for the delays. We may therefore be going through the final crunch time, where complete silence is needed for operational security before the Alliance finishes the job. The very next day after the announcement, we saw the untimely death of Carl Wolf on October 10th, followed by Bob Dean the day after on October 11th. Carl Wolf reported on anomalous structures he saw on the moon at the original 2001 Disclosure Project, and Bob Dean was a veteran of the secret space program. Wilcock met Carl Wolf at the original Disclosure Project in 2001 and had hoped to interview him if he ever decided to speak out again. Carl Wolf was riding his bicycle when he was struck by an 18-wheel truck in Lansing, New York, and later died from his injuries in the hospital. This sounded very similar to the incident in January where Emery Smith's dog was struck by an 18-wheel truck that could have easily hit him instead. Bob Dean revealed a much greater involvement off the record to this author than he had shared publicly, as discussed in the second half of the Ascension Mysteries. Each of these men would have had irreplaceable value as public witnesses in a post-secret space program disclosure society, and now they are gone. Furthermore, the legendary Montauk Project whistleblower Preston Nichols had just died less than a week before, on October 5th, 2018. These deaths may suggest that the Cabal responsible for this cover-up is doing its best to clean house before any disclosure announcements occur. Other signs that we may be on the threshold of major events include mega hurricanes and major economic collapse now in progress that could easily become the next 2008. The Dow Jones has already lost 2,245 points, a total of 8.4%, since its high of October 3rd. This is very likely a structured, intentional event created by the Cabal to try to create chaos as the Alliance makes its final moves. Above Majestic, Advancing the Cause. The film Above Majestic sheds new light on the secret space program, QAnon, and much more, and is scheduled for release on multiple platforms such as iTunes on October 30th. The author of this article is top billing in the film and appears for many minutes of airtime throughout the movie, revealing a variety of controversial subjects. Mr. Wilcock's portion of the film was completely reshot in early August, making it significantly upgraded from sneak preview versions aired at the Disclosure Fest on June 23rd and Dimensions of Disclosure on August 19th. The film is destined to become an instant classic and will be very useful in this disclosure process as we move forward, particularly in light of this stunning new revelation from QAnon. The October 30th premiere had to be canceled due to the severity of threats that were coming in against the participants and audience alike. Update next morning. Valuable link added at the very end to why Q may be waiting until after the elections. Before we get going, a brief word on the current intensity. Ascension is the greater context for all of the discussions we have on this website, including the subject of today's article. My articles, books, lectures, videos, television shows, and films all invariably point us back to the fact that we are going through a very rapid evolution in what it means to be human. Dozens of ancient prophecies point towards the times we are now in as being a true all-is-lost point in our own collective hero's journey. Conditions on Earth were predicted to reach a period of peak stress, where everything we can possibly think of goes through a simultaneous crisis. The biosphere goes out of whack, suggesting the planet itself will not continue to be habitable, and this triggers a worldwide initiation experience. Economies collapse, poverty and inequality reaches an all-time high, unspeakable corruption appears everywhere at the highest levels, and the pain goes on and on. Everyone is going through this. The initiation reaches maximum intensity on the global as well as the personal level. Everyone I know is going through it right now in various ways. Therefore, if you experience a hell like you've never thought possible before, don't worry. It's all part of the grand initiation. Whatever is happening in your life right now and keeps flying in your face is precisely that sacred work that is yours to process, integrate, and transcend. Instead of fighting it, the teachings advise us to face it head on. No escapism or distraction, just fully engage the process. I understand that you may be feeling deep frustration, sadness, depression, and anger. That's all part of the ascension process. The key is to stay calm, remember your higher calling, and work through each new problem methodically, step by step. Each all-is-lost point feels like the worst it's ever been, but sooner or later the final exam is over and you get to relax once more. Reality is holographic. We do have a wealth of spiritual material, both ancient and modern, to draw off of as we process these various difficulties. This material reminds us that we are eternal beings on an eternal timeline. No matter how intense things may seem, it is just another phase of the grand journey. We are clearly going through an epic junction point in the cycles of history at this time. There are many difficulties, but it is also very spring-loaded. The ageless wisdom reminds us that all is holographic. If we put love, compassion, and forgiveness out into the world, it will come back to us. Savor the pain, a paradoxical teaching. One of the most paradoxical spiritual teachings we encounter is the idea of savoring the pain of life rather than running from it. We can reframe any situation we are going through as a sacred blessing, an opportunity to experience massive spiritual breakthroughs at a very fast speed. Sorry for my kitty cat here, he wants some attention. What, Wickers? Come on. These opportunities can create advancement in short bursts that would take tens of thousands of years to work through in the far more harmonious worlds of the higher realms. If you are a regular reader of this site and resonate with its message, it is very likely that your soul came here from higher realms to help this planet evolve. Along the way, you go through your own very profound evolutionary experiences, taking you far beyond the level you were at before you arrived. I discovered I was an ET soul, or wanderer, back in 1995, and have had countless opportunities to savor the pain ever since. Learning to have healthy boundaries. We are also being forced to learn to have healthy boundaries. We cannot allow the negative to run roughshod over our lives. The uprising of the Alliance and the mass sealed indictments is a manifestation of these healthy boundaries finally appearing on a collective level. However, nothing matters more than the personal work we are doing at this time to set healthy boundaries in our own lives while still holding our attackers in love and light. Each time we successfully stand up for what is true and right and honest in ourselves and in the world, we are making enormous progress. We are not condemned nor judged for allowing our oppressors to continue to taunt, manipulate, control, demean, and torture us. However, once we finally decide to stand up and do something about it, we attract all sorts of positive karma and advancement. Tasting water versus drinking it. There is obviously a major difference between tasting water and drinking it. Many times I feel as if the articles I write only give a taste of what is really going on, without truly drinking in the deeper spiritual implications. In a situation like we have right now, with the Alliance's entire initiative seemingly in stasis, things can seem very bleak for those of us who are following the story. Many of us may be feeling as if nothing is ever going to happen. This was all fake, life sucks and then you die, etc. I strongly encourage you to consider the far greater cosmic context that is occurring and not get hung up in the minutiae of a particular moment. Even if the mass arrests never happen, and they will, we are still heading towards events of immeasurable spiritual significance as a planet. A major milestone in our collective awakening. The mass arrests will be great when they finally do happen, but that is not the end of the journey. It will nonetheless be a major milestone in our collective awakening. How we navigate and integrate the mass awakening is ultimately a deeply personal process that all of us are making each and every day. I posted prophetic data in the previous update, now at over 700,000 views, including an all-important quote from October 5th, 1999. It said, "All this is leading towards something like a coup over the military-industrial complex and its stranglehold over the story regarding UFOs and the like. Government is in for a massive cleaning, but at first it will be interpreted as chaos and disorder. The chaos and disorder part is likely to occur once the mass arrests begin in earnest, and now that moment may be very close. And let's not forget the cosmic context. For me, the Law of One series took everything I already knew and framed it in a much greater cosmic context that still has deep relevance for today. You can read and study the entire series free of charge at lawofone.info. I first read the Law of One series in January 1996 and was stunned to see how a lifetime's worth of my seemingly original research was summarized and greatly enhanced in these books. The key argument was that the universe itself was alive and conscious, and certain areas of space and time had their own consciousness at certain density levels. Moving into fourth density. Our own solar system was said to be moving into a new domain of space and time that was fourth density, as opposed to our current 3D level. Our transition into this new domain would ultimately lead to a quantum leap in biology, consciousness, and even the laws of physics in our local vicinity. Hundreds of specific references in the Law of One provided signposts for scientific research that is still ongoing to this day, and revealed many startling interconnections. Some people completely understand that ascension is happening with profound dreams, visions, and insights, whereas others are totally clueless. If you are aware that very heavy stuff is heading our way and struggle to tell others anything about it without being laughed at, here's a suggestion. I always advise people to follow the rule of 10%, meaning tell people 10% of what you want to say and then stop. If they ask questions and make interesting remarks, give them 10% more. If not, simply change the subject. Interplanetary climate change. Apart from any New Age sounding jargon about densities, we find that our entire solar system is indeed experiencing rapid climate change, not just the Earth. I first published a PhD level paper on all of this with 115 academic references on Richard C. Hoagland's website in 2004. The amount of supporting evidence has since expanded dramatically. It is summarized in all three of my published books, The Source Field Investigations, The Synchronicity Key, and The Ascension Mysteries. Furthermore, the newest interplanetary climate change data can be seen in all 13 episodes of Season 28 of Wisdom Teachings on Gaia. Additionally, my best available summary of many different ancient prophecies of ascension at this time can be seen in the 15 episodes of season 27. I am only bringing this up now to point out how easy it is to debunk casual hate comments that there is no evidence to support these assertions. Rapid energetic DNA evolution. The mass energetic charge-up of our solar system is also having a direct effect upon our DNA, causing evolution to occur on a very rapid time scale. Various scientists have discovered different pieces of the puzzle, but hardly anyone sees how they all interconnect. For those who have watched wisdom teachings on Gaia or read my books, the facts behind these conclusions are inescapable. The DNA change is not something that happens all at once at the end of the cycle. You are going through this change right now. The following season 29 of Wisdom Teachings goes through some of the interesting data on this mass DNA evolution over the course of 19 different episodes. In short, you can watch seasons 27 through 29 of the show. You will see 47 half-hour episodes that nicely summarize the core argument for Ascension, almost a year of weekly programs. This argument is all based on the original message of the Law of One with the appropriate scientific data to back it up. Cosmic Disclosure in the Secret Space Program. For the first 2.5 years of my time with Gaia, the scientific argument in favor of Ascension was the main focus of my work. Then beginning in July 2015, I was able to convince Corey Goode to come forward as an insider in what became a new show, Cosmic Disclosure. For the first time, I had someone who was willing to go fully on record with information I had previously only heard about on a private, confidential basis from others. 3 of the people who provided this information just died in the first half of this month, as I shared in the intro. What made Corey's information so unique was that he had apparently received stunning new ET contacts beginning in March 2015, in addition to his prior experiences in the secret space program. Before too long, the ETs that allegedly contacted Corey revealed themselves to be the same beings that authored the Law of One series in 1981 to 83. Stunning new information. Many interesting narratives have come through in the 3 years we did the show, including a wide variety of new data on the Ascension process. Corey had barely even read the first volume of the Law of One after being asked, but his information often referenced it so precisely that I had to go back and reread it to see the connections. The interconnections are so complex that without a long-term dedicated study of the Law of One and Goode's testimony, it is impossible to truly appreciate the scope and depth of the story. This included the alleged appearance of beings from the inner earth calling themselves the Anshar. I later went back and found numerous references to this group in the Law of One, though not by that name. Other insiders also came forward with supporting information, including Pete Peterson, William Tompkins, and Emery Smith. I was able to convince Peterson and Smith to come forward after both men had privately shared information with me for nearly a decade. Frustrating personal details do not invalidate the material. I lived with Carl Ruckert and Jim McCarty, the surviving members of the Law of One team, from full-time from 2003 to 2005. I also lived right near their land in Milton, Kentucky for another year, coordinating efforts with various volunteers. There were plenty of disappointing events that took place during those 3 years, mostly because I had put them on a pedestal before I had arrived. Soon after I moved in, I became very distinctly aware of how flawed and human they were, as are we all. Out of respect, I have shared hardly any specifics and do not plan to. The same thing is the case with my insiders, including Corey Goode, who in many ways received the next major phase of the Law of One contact in my estimation. Regardless of whether Corey's experiences were literal, tangible realities or dreamlike telepathic messages, they nonetheless were very helpful. I do believe they took place in physical reality. I do find it interesting to see how my own life has woven through these various situations including being present at the original Disclosure Project event in 2001 and meeting the witnesses, including the late Carl Wolf. 3-year download periods. We have all been subject to ongoing attacks, and our own character deficits can often bring them on. The appearance of these character deficits can cause our attackers to feel that everything we have done has been discredited. As I have seen, you do not have to be any type of special person to have these contacts. It has more to do with being the right person at the right time. The Law of One contact only lasted for 3 years, from 1981 to 1983. Carl and Jim lived for many years thereafter, but the main contact never returned as it had during that time. Similarly, the active phase of Corey's contacts went on for 3 years. Much data was conveyed that we can still spend years poring over. It is unclear whether additional contacts will occur at this point, apart from the Anshar contacts regarding personal issues that he is still receiving. What we do know is that we have a blueprint for the future that clarified and enhanced the Law of One message in many different ways. The Alliance is far from perfect either. According to DeMartin 32, the number of sealed indictments on the books has now gone up to 55,677 as of September 30th, 2018. We are only days away from the next update from this group, where the number may well expand to the range of 60,000. As we have argued in multiple past articles on the site, there is no conventional explanation for why so many sealed indictments are on the books. We are expecting an international mass arrest of Cabal elites to take place once these indictments are unsealed. The delay has been extremely frustrating, to say the least, particularly as the supporting evidence grows greater and greater. It is important to remember that the Alliance is a group of real people, complete with flaws, doubts, insecurities, and personality distortions. Everything that is pushing us toward disclosure is still very much happening in the real world. Heroes can be deeply flawed and still finish the job. It is a very interesting juxtaposition. One of the most consistent themes in the Law of One series is how incredibly persistent the negative forces are at disrupting positive plans. We naturally assume that we will not be affected by the negative, that we are stronger than that, and it will have no effect on us. The negative is incredibly good at what it does. It can find the slightest weakness in someone's personality and dramatically enhance it. Many people cannot possibly grasp the idea that anything positive is coming out of the Trump administration whatsoever. I can remind our readers that the Alliance has been fighting and dying for this cause since at least the 1950s, but people get very hung up on the present situation. The negative seems to be doing an incredible job of making it appear that there is no positive angle to the current situation. This influence works through the personality structures of individuals and how they then interact with others. Even the die-hard QAnon fans must be feeling extremely bleak in light of the extended absence of posts we are now seeing. QAnon's last statement from October 9th, 2018. The Alliance spoke to everyone's deep frustration on October 9th and has since disappeared for the ensuing 17 days. Here is a partial quote from what is post number 2381 on QAnon.pub. Q! MG7VJX ZNCI number 373. Statement release 10/9/18 P_authority 1. General statement. We understand that there is extreme fatigue and frustration. RE, the wheels of justice slow. Exclude emotion and personal desire. Instead use logic and critical thinking based on situational awareness. How do you undo a lifetime of evil and corruption, infestation, in the span of less than 2 years with a corrupt DOJ and FBI in place? Process and planning, law and order, military op. How can you make arrests, non-military, prior to first fully cleaning out corrupt elements at the top of those departments, the FBI, DOJ, that oversee investigation and prosecution in the United States? They themselves are the very ones engaged in the illegal treasonous acts. The post goes on from there, including a list of many different officials that have already been fired or forced out of office from the FBI, DOJ, and the like. Update. A commenter pointed out that the number of this post, 2381, is the U.S. Penal Code statute number for treason. The silence in the aftermath of this post has been particularly dramatic, making everyone wonder what will happen next. We used to be able to get many briefings on what was going on, but our own insider sources have gone completely silent. This does not at all mean that things have just fizzled out. Quite to the contrary, this is an indication that the behind-the-scenes fight to defeat the Cabal is now at an all-time high. Before we delve into all the intricacies of the present, let's do a quick review of where we last left off on September 8th. Remember the context from our September 8th article? Our previous article from September 8th predicted mass arrests that will occur after unsealing of what is now over 55,000 indictments. Apparently, numerous spy satellites and computers that were the backbone of the deep state surveillance have been taken down in a stunning move by the Alliance. Now that the deep state has been effectively blinded, the final preparations are being made for the arrests, with less probability of interference. On a third update on September 10th, we also discussed the sudden, suspicious timed appearance of a mega hurricane that would have bulldozed Washington, D.C. After we published the third update, the hurricane first looked like it was getting much worse, only to then slow down, weaken, and take a bizarre, sharp left turn at the last minute. We have disclosed the secrets of weather warfare on the site for many years. It involves the use of intense, high-frequency microwave beams. Had that hurricane hit D.C., the power would have been down for weeks and the resulting arrests could have been further delayed. Absolutely unbelievable. In our previous three-part mega article, we ended with the photographs of the Orion space shuttle capsule positioned on the White House lawn. This, coupled with the announcements in March and May about the creation of a space force in the U.S. military, were compelling clues that a UFO-related disclosure was imminent. Later in this article, we will review the data on the space force that was publicly released at this time. The blatant public proposals for a space force were a more than passing hint that a secret space program would soon be declassified. Even despite these interesting clues, nothing could have prepared us for seeing it in black and white in Q posts. I could go on and on with emotional language about how exciting all of this is, finally seeing something that I've worked with my entire life coming to fruition. Knowing what I know about the QAnon posts, seeing them formally acknowledge the secret space program was truly mind-blowing. So this is part 1. Thanks for watching this video. I will put up part 2.